Hi, I'm Jason Sterling, and as I often do, this is a travel vlog. And it's not exactly a travel vlog, it's more of a travel reflection. I've already done a review and a travel vlog for my son and I's visit to the Halcyon Starliner, the Halcyon Star Cruiser, the Star Wars experience at Disney World that generated more hate and blowback than possibly even, the Rise of Skywalker or something like that. And it's now closing. The experience is coming to an end after a year and a half. It'll close in September after a year and a half of voyages and at least be over in that form. And that has caused me a moment, of course, to pause and reflect back on it because it is unfortunate that it's closing in more ways than one. It's unfortunate, of course, for the people who poured so much time, effort, and energy into developing the concept and then executing the concept. Some of the best service I ever had, I mentioned this in my review, was actually on the Halcyon. They actually did seem to have their best people there. On top of that, you had actual real actors performing roles that were remarkably realistic. It was easy to forget that this isn't actually someone who's really this person. It's an actor, right? It's even more unfortunate because this sort of concept, this sort of event, probably won't be tried again at this level of immersion and this level of depth for a long time and maybe ever by any amusement park because it's seen and keeps being hammered away at, especially by people who've hated it from the start and are just thrilled now that they were right? As a failure. The big failure here, though, was marketing. Disney's marketing from the start was wildly poor. It made the concept actually look really, really bad. Their follow-up marketing with influencers primarily was better. I do think it encouraged a lot of people to go, but it also set some pretty unrealistic expectations for this journey because the influencers had a perfect journey. The influencers had a perfect time. And I think that's on purpose, of course. Disney invites them there. Oftentimes they went for free. No, not all of them, but oftentimes they went for free as a guest of the Disney Corporation. And even when they paid for themselves, of course, you're talking about big name YouTube influencers. Naturally, Disney knows who they are. Naturally, they're going to make sure they have a good time. But good time or not, and even though they did encourage people to come, I don't think Disney could ever get across really what this was. I've heard it called a hotel. I've heard it called a cruise in space. I've heard it called, pretend cruise. I've heard it called a boutique hotel, an experience, an event, all these different words thrown out for really what I consider Disney's 4.5 gate. Instead of a fifth gate, full-size theme park, it's like 4.5, like half a theme park. Like a boutique theme park was probably a lot closer to what it was than a hotel. It wasn't a hotel. It wasn't a cruise ship. It was kind of an experience and kind of an event, but it was so big and so encompassing that it really didn't fit that either. It was not like, Star Wars Con. It was not a convention where you're going to be there for 8 hours during the day and then you go back to your hotel or something. This was like a 48-hour boutique theme park where you entered and you're in the theme park as part of the attraction for 48 hours. And that's really what it was. And they could never really get that across, just like they could never really get the pricing across the people. Was it expensive? Yeah, it was expensive. Was it 1% expensive? It was not 1% expensive. People who throw that around have no idea the amount of money 1% in this country and in this world spend on things. It was not 1% expensive. And in fact, I doubt the 1% was really all that interested in going to Disney World and participating in the Halcyon Star Cruiser. Now, when you can afford to go into outer space itself, that's not as attractive. So I really don't think the 1% were that impressed with this. And that number gets thrown around. Oh, it was for the super rich or 1%ers. It really was. I mean, they could go, but they weren't the only ones that could go. I'm not super rich. I'm not a 1%er, not even close. Now, the true cost, after you backed out things like a hotel room for the night and the food and the park tickets and all this sort of stuff that was bundled in this package, once you backed all that out, the actual cost of the experience for my son and I staying in a room was about $2,500 for the experience, or $625 per day per person. That is not cheap. It's not cheap. It's also not super rich. So, I mean, if you can afford to go to Disney and do the normal things at Disney, stay on Disney property, build robots at Droid Depot, build lightsabers at Savvy's, that sort of thing, chances are you could afford it, right? That's a much bigger pool of people than just 1%ers. And so $625. I went over this in my review. We'll go over it real quick here again. It costs about $300 to build a lightsaber Savvy's workshop for that experience, which is about 30 minutes long. This experience of being with these Jedi, building this lightsaber, and it's super cool. And I really loved it. My son really loved it. It's about 30 minutes long. It's $300. Now you do have a lightsaber at the end of it to take home with you, so do keep that in mind. $625, you got 24 hours of experience. You got 24 hours of in-depth experience of living in Star Wars. So when you compare it that way, if you love Star Wars, if you're really digging it, if you're really into this sort of thing, then yeah, it really wasn't that expensive for that sort of fan. But at the end of the day, they never really could get the marketing down. Now, the influencers did get people to come in there. I went in there. I did. I was excited. I wanted to go. But here's the second big problem after marketing. To be honest and to be realistic, it could not live up to the marketing. It couldn't live up to the influencer marketing where you are the hero. You are a central figure. You are in the middle of it all. You are dealing with these characters one-on-one for a personal experience. It couldn't live up to that. Now, it was fun. I had a good time. It was fun. My son had a really good time. And there were a lot of great things about it. And I don't think it was worth nothing. Okay. The fact that it didn't entirely live up to the marketing does not mean it was worth nothing. And it does not mean that I had a bad time. And in fact, I was considering going again when I go back to Disney in a couple of years. I don't go to Disney every year. There's a whole world out there. Go see other things, you guys. But, yeah, when I went back in a couple of years, I probably would have done it again. But that's me. I love Star Wars, right? My son loves Star Wars. You had a lot of on the fencers though. So the initial push from influencers got a lot of people in there and a lot of people went. What you need when that starts to fade and drop off is you need real word of mouth from real world people who are going home and telling their friends and telling their family who are on the fencers, hey, oh my God, you can't miss this. I know it's a lot. I know it costs a lot of money, but you can't miss this. This is incredible. Instead of doing all this stuff during your vacation at Disney, you need to swap part of that out and go on the Halcyon instead. Drop a few things from the rest of your vacation. Do this instead because it is so incredible. And that didn't happen. At least by and large. That didn't happen. It didn't happen with me. Yeah, I came back. I talked about how good it was, how great it was, how much I really enjoyed it. But it did not live up to the marketing. Most of what I did was on my data pad. Most of what I did was a video game on my phone. Okay. I had a great time. I had a lot of fun. And that adventure added a lot to Batuu, especially. I had more fun in Batuu, Black Spire Outpost there at Galaxy's Edge. I had more fun there than I've ever had with the Halcyon tie-ins. But it was not a personal adventure where I got to interact with characters. They were always swamped with people. My voyage was 367 people, which is full for that ship, right? That's 3.7 people in every room when the rooms only hold like 4 people. I think there's a few that hold 5 and you have a couple of suites, but by and large, looking at 4 people per room, and we had 3.7 in every single room. You could never talk to the characters. They were always swamped. They started meetings early. There was no way of getting a central sort of role, a central way of doing things as just an average single person like myself. And even as family people, there were a lot of people that I noticed that had a problem with that. Now you can watch my whole review if you want to know everything about it. I'm not going to go into it now. But at the end of the day, myself and people like that, we went back and we said, yeah, this was fun. It was fun. I had a good time. I really enjoyed the food. I really enjoyed the service. But no, if you're hoping you're going to hang out with these characters and you're going to be like a central figure and they're going to clap and give you accolades at the end because you helped save the galaxy, the best you're going to get is on your phone. There's going to be a thank you. from one of the main characters, or maybe a couple of them, that said, hey, thanks, you did a great job. But when you're with those main characters at the finale for that mission, where there's smuggler or whatever else, yeah, they're going to call out a few people that did live action missions, not on the data pad, in the ship as a whole. But there's only a few of those missions. So when you got 100 people all trying to be a smuggler, and you can choose 2 or 3 real life missions for people to participate in, a lot of people get left out. And that was true for every single pass. So yeah, you get this little handful of people that get called out by name. But I'm telling you from experience, the main characters looked at the rest of us like it was the first time they'd seen us. No matter what your data pad said. No matter what your data pad said, that, hey, you did a great job. Hey, we're really appreciative of it. Da-da-da-da-da. They didn't really know who you were. They really didn't know your name. Yeah, maybe if you're a big YouTube influencer and you've got 1 million followers, yeah, maybe they knew your name. Hell, I know your name too. You know, there's a lot of Disney kind of influencers out there I actually do like. But yeah, sure, I'm sure they knew your name, and I'm sure they referenced you by name. Never once was I called by name on that ship. Never once. Even after I introduced myself, no one ever asked, though, either. I'll be honest, no one ever asked. And so, yeah, I mean, that when we come back and you've got a pretty good review, that's not enough. It's got to be a great review. It's got to be a glowing review to push those on the fencers over the fence. And I think that didn't happen by and large. Some people it did, because you had these few people that were included like that. And they came back and they raved about it, and they probably continued that wave a little bit further. But eventually that wave was dying out. And without the on the fencers coming back and pushing their friends to go, and so on and so forth, until you reach that moment when people are starting to come back for their second and third voyages to help fill slots. Without that, yeah, it was going to die off. And that's what happened. It was dying off. So at the end of the day, they decided to go ahead and shut it down. Like I said, there's a whole bunch of people clapping and happy. I don't get that. I get that not everybody could afford it, even with the numbers as I presented them. You know, that's a lot of money. I get not everyone could afford it. Are we all hoping the Polynesian is going to close next? I can't afford the Polynesian. I'd like to stay at the Polynesian instead of Pop Century. Yeah, I'd love it. It looks beautiful, right? It looks really, really nice. It's right there by the monorail. I can't afford to stay there. Should I really do a whole bunch of negative reviews and hope that they close the Polynesian down and bulldoze it? Maybe I should feel that way about the Four Seasons. Maybe I should feel that way about these new housing additions Disney's in partnerships with houses that start at $6 million. You know, should I feel that way about Victoria and Albert's at the Grand Floridian because it costs, $600 per person? Maybe even more than that with wine, right? Should I feel that way? Should I feel like it should be torn down and have so much hate put on it that it's closed? Should I feel that way? And that's one of the really sad things about this particular experience, this particular attempt on the part of Disney to do something different. And that is that it brought out the worst side of this community. Now, you always have haters, and they jumped on it like, cats on dead fish, right? I mean, you always have the group of Disney haters. It doesn't matter what they do. They're going to just rip it apart. And this was a fantastic whipping post for them. And that's too bad, because Disney could never really overcome that negative part of it either. That's what made it so hard, even with real word of mouth. It's not just convincing on the fencers to fall over to the other side of the fence. It's trying to counter all of the negativity they've already heard through like 1 million different outlets. Well, I heard there's not even a pool. Well, what the hell are you going to do with a pool in 48 hours when you are constantly busy? I've never understood that. The number of people who are just held up. Hell, I don't even hardly use the pool at the resort. It doesn't matter which resort I'm at. I might use the pool one brief time on the morning before I fly out because there's nothing else to do, right? So stuff like that. Or there's no windows. Okay, you're supposed to be in outer space. Do you really want a window that looks out onto the parking lot? Were you hoping for a window that looked out onto the parking lot or onto like a landscape courtyard or some giant pin, bowling pin or something at Pop Century? That's what you wanted to see from outer space? Is that what you used to see? There were windows. There were a lot of windows. They just happened to be digital screens with the display of outer space, but I never once felt claustrophobic, and I do get claustrophobic. And it always looked like you were looking outside. It always looked like there was windows, but there were all these sort of things you had to try to counter on top of just saying, hey, I had a good time, right? Because of the stuff people heard. Well, I heard this, I heard that. Okay, well, I was there. And it wasn't really like that. And it's really too bad. I do regret that it's closing. I regret it because they probably won't try it again for a while. Not anything like it was. Nothing this in depth. I regret the fact that I can't go again, because if they bring it back, it won't be like it was. And I do regret that. So I miss that, and I miss, I miss that idea of those future possibilities of what of going back. I miss it for my son. My son had a great time. In the interest of fairness, let me say he had a really fantastic time. And I think he had a better time even than I did. I think he would tell you it was just unbelievably fantastic. First thing he said when I said it was closing, he asked if we could go again before it closed. I actually kind of thought about trying to make that happen. Of course, it sold out in 4 hours. I didn't even try to call. I was like, this would be crazy. I'll wait till it calms down. Well, I watched it all day as it just sold out. I could try to get on as a roommate with some people, and that's how I was going to go back in the future because then it brings the cost down, right? But yeah, I don't even know if I'd be able to do that. There's so many people clamoring to go now since it's not going to be there. And that's unfortunate. I know my son really had a great time. He ended up on the Saja path. He got the great Saja ending. I won't give it away for anyone who hasn't been there yet, but he got the great Saja ending. He had a fantastic time. He really, really enjoyed it. And that's too bad. It is too bad. I really do regret that. Regret the future possibilities and the future opportunities. So, that's it. That's my feelings on the Halcyon and on its closing. The next time they try to do something, you guys, I get it. Not everybody can go. Here's a news flash. Not everybody can go to Disney World, period. So everyone who goes to Disney World saying, oh, well, I couldn't go. I couldn't afford to go. Disney's priced everybody out of the market. Disney's already priced everybody out of the market like 50 years ago. It's always been a situation where everybody could not afford to go. When you live paycheck to paycheck, or mostly paycheck to paycheck, you can't afford to go to Disney. You can't afford to fly to Florida. You can't afford $200 a night to stay in Pop Century or someplace like that. Everybody already can't go to Disney. So the next time they create something, I hope that maybe we can get by with a little less hate on it and a little bit like, yeah, that looks really cool. I can't afford to go, but it does look really cool. And I hope maybe at some point, maybe I will get to go, or maybe I'll figure something out to go. I don't know. That was it. Halcyon's closing. It's too bad. I regret it. And in the meantime, please watch for more travel stuff in the future. It won't be the Halcyon, but it'll be other things coming up in the future. And until then, thanks for watching.